Now I want to discuss in relation to the Iowa caucus tonight. We talked about DeSantis, we talked about Trump. Now I want to talk about Trump's supporters. I have some clips for you that to me are rather disturbing. The willingness or even the excitement about a potential Trump dictatorship among many of his followers is concerning to say the least. We'll look at these anecdotes, then we'll look at data on the insanity that is support for Trump in this current moment. I'm honestly I've given up trying to understand. Now I'm just presenting this to you with no understanding. I can't give you some articulation of why this is how people feel, but they feel this way and we have to vote against it.
The other day, Donald Trump said on his first day he's going to be a dictator for a day.
I like that. Yeah, I like that.
Would you rather have Donald Trump as a dictator for 4 years or re-elect Joe Biden for 4 years?
I would rather have Donald Trump. I'd like to see the repeal the Roosevelt law so that he can be a president for a lot more than 4 years. But this country needs a dictator. I hate to say that, but it's the truth.
And of course, it's not. But before responding in full, here are a few more examples. And I don't know why the audio is distorted in this TikTok clip to make all the voices sound sort of high and nasally, but here we go.
Do you rather have 4 years of Donald Trump as a dictator or 4 years of Joe Biden as a president?
Donald Trump all the way.
Even as a dictator?
Yes, yes.
Even coming out of Slovakia?
Yes, yes.
I know that it's a distortion. I'm not making fun of their voices because it's the same interviewer who you just heard before and it sounds completely different.
Would you rather have 4 years of Donald Trump as a dictator or 4 years of Joe Biden as a president?
We have a dictator currently, so.
Yes, we do.
What would you rather have? 4 years of Donald Trump as a dictator or 4 more years of Joe Biden as president?
I think I'm choosing Donald Trump as a dictator for 4 more years.
You rather have 4 years of dictator Trump or 4 years of a Biden presidency?
4 years of a dictator.
Okay, you get the point. Same answer over and over and over again. Now, those are just people in clips. We don't know if that's representative, right? We'll get to, again, the data on the insanity in a little bit. But first, while we're talking about supporters of Trump, I want to look at a new supporter of Donald Trump, Doug Burgum, the former presidential candidate in this primary. Before playing a clip of him from the past where he had very different feelings on Trump, I'll read this from the Associated Press to you. North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum endorsed Donald Trump's comeback bid for the White House Sunday ahead of the Iowa caucuses, a month after he ended his own long shot campaign for the Republican nominations. So again, governor of North Dakota, he had no chance in the Republican presidential primary. He was on one debate stage. Most people didn't really know who he was, but now he's endorsing Donald Trump. Here's a clip of Doug Burgum while he was running for president getting asked, would you even do business with Trump? And he said no, because it's important to be mindful of, and you are judged based on who you surround yourself with. And Trump is so low character, he wouldn't want to surround himself with Trump.
Would you ever do business with Donald Trump?
I don't think so.
Why?
I just think that it's important that you're judged by the company you keep, and
You just wouldn't do business with him?
No, I wouldn't.
So I went from I wouldn't do business with Trump to I'm endorsing Trump. Is he just doing this because he wants to, or is he being promised a cabinet position, or what? I don't know, but pretty dang crazy. Then I have for you another person who once criticized Trump very harshly and is now singing his praises. And this comes in the form of Florida Senator Marco Rubio writing on X. When Trump was in the White House, I achieved major policies I had worked on for years, like expanded child tax credit and tough sanctions on regime in Cuba and Venezuela, because we had a president who didn't cave to special interests or let bureaucrats block us. I support Trump because that kind of leadership is the only way we will get the extraordinary actions needed to fix the disaster Biden has created. It's time to get on with the work of beating Biden and saving America. The disaster, is he referring to the capping of insulin costs at $35 out of pocket per month for Medicare recipients, or the historic investment in green energy, or the infrastructure law, investing in roads, bridges, clean and reliable drinking water, etc., or the historic low unemployment for a longer period of time than we've seen in decades and decades, or What is he talking about? What disaster? It seems that Biden took over a disaster and it got a hell of a lot better since he did. But as a reminder of the things Rubio used to say, here is this moment from his Republican presidential campaign in 2016.
You compared Donald Trump to a third world dictator yesterday in an interview with the New York Times. How so?
Well, I don't know about a dictator. I said a third world strongman. He's running for president, so no matter what, he won't be a dictator unless our republic completely crumbles, which I don't anticipate it will. But yeah, here's what happens in many countries around the world. You have a leader that emerges and basically says, don't put your faith in yourselves, don't put your faith in society, put your faith in me. I'm a strong leader, and I'm going to make things better all by myself. This is very typical. You see it in the third world. You see it a lot in Latin.
Interesting. And he also said this during a campaign event.
And once a chalker, always a choker. I guess that's what he meant to say. He spelled choker, C-H-O-K-E-R, choker. He called me Mr. Meltdown. Let me tell you something. Last night in the debate during one of the breaks, two of the breaks, he went backstage. He was having a meltdown. First, he had this little makeup thing applying like makeup around his mustache because he had one of those sweat mustaches. Then he asked for a full-length mirror. I don't know why, because the podium goes up to here, but he wanted a full-length mirror. Maybe to make sure his pants weren't wet. I don't know.
Okay, so you get the point. But I know the argument would be, sure, he didn't like Trump, but Trump in his mind's better than Biden. Obviously, I have a gazillion reasons I go through every single day on the show as to why that's ridiculous, but I'll save that for another day or for my past segments. One other person I want to touch on, then we'll get to some other info. Nikki Haley, just because I was trying to go through all the different big candidates for tonight's caucus. Here's her closing message to Iowans.
I think President Trump was the right president at the right time. I agree with a lot of his policies. But rightly or wrongly, chaos follows him. And this is a time, for the sake of our kids, that we start to right the ship so that we're no longer living in chaos.
That's just not going to win over people, because Trump's supporters, if they think the chaos is the radical left going after Trump and Trump just being the victim trying to defend himself, why would they abandon him so that we don't have chaos? When again, it's defeating the radical left that would defeat the chaos in their minds. Obviously, it's true chaos follows Trump, but it's wrongly. She says rightly or wrongly. It's wrongly because he creates the chaos. But she doesn't want to say it that clearly because he's trying to win over some of those supporters. But I just don't understand from DeSantis' perspective or Haley's perspective how they see this going when they're so unwilling to actually aggressively go after Trump for the things he should be gone after for. But it's true that, to their credit, if they did that, if they called out the authoritarian nature of Trump, if they called out the fact that he's openly running on a campaign of authoritarianism, of a dictatorial second term, and has a track record of being anti-democratic in his governance with trying to block the peaceful transfer of power, making himself the first president to try to do that, if they called out the fact that he stands against the most important principles of America, they would lose support in the Republican primary because Republicans don't agree with any of what I just said. Now, take a look at this poll from CBS. Trump using the phrase poisoning the blood of the country to refer to migrants, saying that they're poisoning the blood of the country, as we've talked about, is directly mirroring the language of Hitler. Well, according to CBS's poll, this is something that Republican voters absolutely support, that sort of language. Take a look. Agree with Trump, all voters, 47%, 81% of primary voters in the Republican Party. Disagree with Trump, 53% of all voters, 19% of Republican likely voters disagree with Trump in saying something that is just right out of Mein Kampf. That's the situation that we're in. We've talked about how in some polls, 60+% of Republicans believe the election was stolen. Now, interestingly, like 50% of that group admit they don't have evidence of it. Okay. Wild. But a massive portion buying into this core part of Trump's deceit when it comes to our election systems, just because Trump's saying it, his allies are echoing it in the media. And obviously, the poll I'm about to show you is the biggest endorsement of Trump's anti-democratic behavior from the Republican voters, the biggest endorsement of his wild and dangerous second-term platform. And that is as follows. CNN reports, former President Donald Trump looks to be on the verge of a historic victory in the Iowa caucuses. The final poll from Iowa's premier pollster Ann Seltzer has Trump at 48%, followed by former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley at 20% and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis at 16%. And this is a super important poll that comes out each election year in relation to the Iowa caucus. So 48%, half of the Republican Party in Iowa. And Iowa is supposed to be one of the places where the other candidates can make some moves, are probably going to do better than they'll do in a lot of the other states. And still, half of the Republican Party, after everything we've gone over the course of the last years, again, Trump trying to block peaceful transfer of power, him being a civilly liable rapist, him saying that his former top general should be executed, him calling for the termination of the Constitution, saying the government should come down hard on media outlets he doesn't like, all these things. And they support him. There's other options that still I wouldn't like, but they're not Trump, but they're not going to go with that. They're going to go with Trump. And some of them are explicitly saying, let's have a dictator. Others are just passively okay with that. Really scary. Make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel.